Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, my students? Again, with the same lesson. Our lesson is talking about topographic maps. Let's start with the objective for this lesson. The objective or the main aim for this lesson: how do maps show topography? How this map show or explain the topography? I know most of the students have problem with the word topography. What the meaning of topography? So the topography here actually means the landforms. Landforms like mountain, like hill, like all of this. So topography explains the elevation, layout, and shape of the land. Here the difference between the topography map and the normal map. Normal map provide us with information about the borders between the countries, sometimes the rivers, sometimes the places. And we use for this one GPS, and we studied what is the meaning of global positional system or the GPS. Here in topographic map, explain or show us a lot of information about the landforms. Landforms like mountain, like valleys, like hills, like all the landforms. So like this, we have complicated map, but we will explain each point, each line here represent what. Before we study the lesson from the book, we have to understand some words, some vocabs, some concepts. These concepts, if we understand this concept, we will understand the rest of the lesson. Let's start with the main word, contour line. Contour line here, if we make zoom in here, contour line, we have like circles here. All of these circles called contour line. So here, contour line, contour line, contour line. All these lines or circles called contour line. So this contour line. After contour line, contour interval. Contour interval means what? Means the distance between contour lines. Like here, here we have distance between this circle and this circle. This distance means interval, contour line. Interval means the distance. And the distances between the lines should be equal. This distance equals this distance equals this distance, so on. Index contour. Index contour, each 5 contour lines, the fifth one called contour line. For example, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth one, darker and heavier one, this one, called index contour line. Index contour line. So this is index contour line. Depression contour, like here, this depression. Depression means what? Means contour line, but this contour line has short, very short straight lines, and very short straight lines pointing toward its center. Okay, so when we see this circle with this small straight lines or short straight lines, we understand this place is hollow. Hollow means groove. We have groove, or we have something like well, something like this. Okay, groove here or hole. So this is depression, that we what we call depression contours. A steep slope when the contour lines on the map are close. Look here again. Here the contour lines very close from each other, and here contour lines it has wide space, okay, or away from each other. When the contour lines very close from each other, it means what? It means this area steep slope, steep slope. But this place or this area not steep, but gentle slope. Gentle slope. So the slope here is steep, but here is gentle slope. So here the meaning of steep slope and gentle slope. When the contour lines on the map are close, here when the contour lines on the map away from each other. So let's start the lesson from the book. We can open the book now and study this one. The first point in the book, or first page in the book, is talking about My Planet Daily. My Planet Daily is introduction for the lesson. This introduction is talking about this game called geocaching. And the word geocaching divided into two sections. Section 1, let's take pen. There's something wrong here. Yes, here geocaching. Geocaching game like hide and seek. Hide and seek, we were playing it when we were young, but now we have another game similar to this game, hide and seek, but called geocaching. Geo, as I told you, divided into two sections. Geo means earth, caching means storage. So we hide something in the earth, but in the earth, in mountain, in valley, and we get the place by GPS. We're using the GPS to get the place for this stuff or this thing that we hide. So this is simply about the introduction for the lesson. Geocaching means the earth storage, and this is game like hide and seek. We will hide something. So what technological advance made the sport of geocaching possible? Technological advance here is GPS. GPS help us to find anything or to get anything. Number two, if you were a geocacher player. Geocacher player, where would you hide a cache and why? Yeah, this question, like, you know, for fun or for as a funny question. I expect your answer will be we will hide the cache on mountain or in unexpected place anywhere, in order to the other party cannot find it. So we can say anywhere in the sea, on mountain, on valley, anywhere. Here we will study the same vocabs or the same word that we have studied before, but with more details. Here, topographic map. Topographic map, this is pronunciation for topographic map, is showing what we can underline in our book, showing the surface features of an area. So topographic map showing the surface features like what, like landforms, mountain, hills, rivers, streams, like this. Topographic maps. This is the definition for topographic maps. So you saw explain the elevation, and the elevation means the height. Relief here means the difference between the most high point and most lowest point. And slope. So I ask you about the topographic map. Explain what or showing what? Showing elevation is number one, relief number two, and slope. How to read the contour lines? Contour lines, map maker use contour lines to show elevation, as I said, relief and slope. Okay. So what is contour line? Yes, contour line as we defined it at the beginning, connecting points of equal elevation. Here, if we have contour line like this, any circle, as we studied in math, consists of points. Okay, all of these points have the same elevation. Okay, a lot of points. Okay, so contour lines connecting points or connects points of equal elevation. Contour interval. If we have another contour line like this, another one like this, okay, so the distance between the contour lines should be equal. And these distances called contour interval. So the change in elevation or the distances between the contour lines called contour interval. Uh, as I told you before, index contour. Index contour here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth one, here the fifth one is darker here and heavier. Darker one and heavier one called what? Called index contour. So here the every fifth contour line is known as index contour. And these lines, the index contours, are darker and heavier than other regular one. This is the one that's regular, and this one, the fifth one, is darker or index contour. We have question here over here. Explain the difference between the index contour and the regular one. As we said, the index contour will be darker and heavier than the other lines, other regular lines. So here we have map here, topographic map. We have question over here. What information does the map provide that the photograph does not? Here, the information from this map is about data on elevation. Number one, data of elevation, relief, and slope, and shapes of mountain. Yeah. For example, for more explanation here, we have map, topographic map. We explain the change in elevation from contour line to the next called what? Contour interval. Explain what's contour interval. The contour interval for given map is always the same, of the same distance. Every fifth contour line, this is the index line, known as index contour, darker and heavier. So make zoom in here for more understanding. Look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the fifth one here is index contour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here index contour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Index contour. All the darker lines are index contour. Contour line. Contour line is the regular one. This one, thinner one, is contour line. Contour interval, the distance between the regular contour line and other regular contour line. Here another map, and we have some questions over this map. Look here, the distance between A and B. We have 2 points, A and B. and here is the elevation. So we have to read the topographic map in this way. We understood the meaning of the darker and heavier line, index line, and we understood the interval counter. So if we know the height here is 800, 8,000, sorry, because 3 zeros, and the height here is 8,800. So what is the height here? Here in the middle between them. So the middle in between them should be 800 and 8,000, sorry, and 400. Like this, 400. Okay. So by increasing 400, we go to the next index counter. Okay. We go up like this. So he's asking here about the highest elevation. Highest elevation here. Okay. So we will add to reach to this index counter. We add 400. So it will be 9 and 9,200. 9 and 200. Get it? So we add about 180. So the most highest point at what 9,380 feet. Then he asked you to draw the same map but in this way. Okay, so we'll make X and Y. Here is Y and here is X. X will be the distance between the point A and B here. And here the elevation for each item or each point, we increase 400. So here we'll start from 6,800, we add 400 will be 7,200, we add 400 will be 7,600 and so on. And here plus 400 for each one. Then we'll make relationship between X and Y. So the diagram will be like this. Here reading topographic map. How to read the topographic map? Actually, the topographic map, like, we lost when you look at the first time at the topographic map, you will lost because you can't understand the topographic map. But after studying topographic map and after understanding what the meaning of index counter lines and all of these concepts, you can read the topographic map easily. For example, you have to know something called a scale. Here, map scale. And the map scale for each country, they have a specific map scale. For example, in United States of America, they have map scale 1 to 224,000, or 1 centimeter on the map. 1 centimeter represents what? Represents 0.24 kilometer for each one, for every 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter represents 0.24 kilometers. Okay. This is a map about map scale. Then, so to read the topographic map, you must to be familiarize yourself with the map scale. Map scale, as I told you, for each country they have their own map scale. To explain the maps counter line in the United States of America, as I told you, 1 to 24,000 kilometer, or 1 centimeter for 0.24 kilometer. sorry, I said the 24,000 meter, but here to 0.24 kilometer. And to find the features, begin with the level of, for example, if we have x here, and we want what is the height of x, for example. Okay. I will explain this by a practical example. Here, for example, I want to know the height of x. So I will determine the height for the index. The nearest index is 200. And the next index is 500 and 5,300. Okay. So here 500 to 5,200 and here 5,300. The difference between them is 100. 100 divided by what? But divided by 5, because here we have 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So divided by 5 equal 20. So the distance between each line is 20 meter or centimeter or whatever the measuring unit. So here is 20 and here is 40. So x is the height of x is 5,240. Another point, he's talking about this shape, about the line, not regular circle, but here we have like V shape. We'll check. Look. Here we have two types of V shape. V shaped point upward, pointing to upward, like this, like this one. Okay. So the arrow here pointing to valley. Here is V pointing to up, V-shaped line. Look at the contour line here, like V shape, V letter, I mean, V letter like this, but V letter here pointing up. Okay, pointing to up. So it means what? It indicates this area is valley. But if the V shape pointing to downward, it will indicate ridge. Ridge means what? Means height. Ridge means height. So V pointing to down. Okay. So the shape of the contour lines also help to show the ridges and valleys. How? V-shaped contour lines pointing downhill like this. So indicates what? Ridge. Ridge if the V-shape pointing downhill. Okay. If the V-shape is another case, V-shaped contour lines pointing uphill indicates what? Indicates valley, like this. So we have two cases for V shape. One of them pointing downhill, other one pointing uphill. Pointing uphill, it indicates what? It means what? Means valley. This area is valley. Pointing downward or downhill, it means what? Ridge. And ridge here means elevation or high landform. So we'll take some questions from the book. How does the topographic map serve as a good model of mountain? And what is it missing? Here for mountain, we know the elevation. The topographic map provide us with information about the elevation. But the problem is the distance or the places between the contour line. In here, contour line, we know the elevation for this contour line. We know the elevation for this contour line. The missing point here, the height between them. We don't know the height between this line and this line. So here the map shows the elevation for the mountain, but missing the elevations between contour line as I told you. Here, how is map a model of Earth? A map shows the location of features on the Earth at a particular scale. A map also shows topography. This topography means elevation, relief, and slope. It's frequented question, frequented information. Now, thank you for your watching, and I hope to solve the homework on online homework. We have long online homework because yesterday we were have trouble in the system and the homework didn't work. Thank you and see you tomorrow, inshallah.